In today's episode, park poorly with your fancy car, watch me squeeze in and block you. You need to think about whether you want to work here or not. Taking a break when the boss says so. So let's get started. Park poorly with your fancy car, watch me squeeze in and block you. This happened yesterday. My wife had some serious surgery and her family sent her some flowers. Unfortunately for us, no one knows our physical address, only our mailing address. I do a lot of cybersecurity and investigation work, so I keep the location a pretty guarded secret. The UPS store called us and let us know there were flowers for her. I headed over to get them, and our mail while I was there. When I got there, most of the good spots were taken, except for one. Then I looked and there was a fancy Lincoln parked across into the space next to it. I did not want to park down 4 more spaces or around the back of the building because this person could not be bothered to park respectfully. I drive a very old, 2005 Chrysler Town & Country, and I am an excellent parker. So I lined up within the lines and slowly pulled forward, taking extra care to not scrape the offending vehicle. I climb out and head in to pick up my packages and the flowers. There were quite a few people inside, and I went to get the slips out of the mailboxes. While I have my back turned, I hear a female voice asking everyone who owns the blue car. She comes up behind me and asks me if I own the blue car. I turned and saw an older blonde Karen staring daggers at me with a smile on her face. I did not know for sure who she was looking for, so I responded, probably. 96% chance she was looking for me, but I was in a mood. She says, "I can't get into my car," which was left running. She asks if I could move my car. I said I would when I completed my pickup. She smiles and walks outside. She looks back and sees me in line, 2 or 3 back from the counter, and asks what I am doing. She says, "I need to go, I am done." I reply that I am waiting to get my packages. At this point I see the 2 employees look at each other with a look of fear. I know they are not afraid of me, I have been with them for decades. I can only imagine the scene she must have done before I came in to get that kind of response. One of the staff calls me out of line and ignores the people in front of me, snatching the package slips out of my hand. Both of them abandon their posts and go to get my packages. Now keep in mind I was in line, waiting my turn. I did not in any way ask for them to jump to me from the people that were there first. The other customers were oddly silent as this was going on. They grabbed my packages, forgot one, had to go back and look for it. When I stepped forward to sign for the flowers, Karen was standing there with her arms crossed and tapping her foot, right next to the signature pad. Like so close I would have had to lean on her to sign. I made a mad eye on for her to step back, and she stared at me, then at the pad. I stepped back and told her I had 3 hours, and asked if she did. Karen huffed and took a half step back. I rolled my eyes and stepped in to sign. Karen says loudly, "I will get the flowers for you," which she did. She snatched the vase and walked to the door. I knew she wasn't going anywhere, and there would be hell to pay if she accidentally dropped them. I signed for the rest of my packages and walked around her car to get to the back of my car. I let her hold the flowers because the packages were large and awkward. I needed an extra hand anyway. I loaded up and braced the flowers. She is standing directly behind her car and tapping her foot. I closed the trunk and went to get in my car. "Looks like you can't get in either," she cawed, because the car on the other side was kinda close, but it was within the lines. It had been there when I arrived and parked. "I got out, didn't I?" I replied as I turned sideways and Crab walked slowly and got in my car. Before I closed the door, I heard one of the other patrons come out and ask why she hadn't left yet. She said she was blocked in, like he had not heard the exchange inside. "You should not have parked across the lines, I guess," he replied and walked away laughing. I pulled out and got on the highway. She actually followed me for a long distance. I was in a company vehicle with the number on the side, so she is more than welcome to report me. I let my boss know what happened and he laughed. I know it may be petty, but for all of us that get blocked from parking in a spot by asshats that feel the rules don't apply to them, this is for you. You need to think about whether you want to work here or not. In my late teens/early 20s, I worked at a bar and a restaurant that were next door to each other, owned by the same people, and attached through the kitchen. I took shifts at both. They were located in a pretty sketchy area of my city. The restaurant was a pretty cheap diner/pizza place that catered to the neighborhood, and some of the customers could be pretty sketchy and some were cheap AF. There was one couple in particular that I couldn't stand. I called them Sonny and Cher, as they comically had similarities to their namesakes. They were the worst. Always ordered the special. Demanded all of my attention. Wanted endless refills. Emptied the sugar, salt, and pepper shakers into plastic baggies. You get the picture. All while pretending that we were great pals, knowing full well that they were going to leave me their standard tip of 1 nickel. Happened every time. The boss paid us under the table. At the end of the week, I would write down the hours I worked that week, multiply it by my hourly wage, pay myself from the till, and leave the slip of paper with my calculations in the till. The boss decided to start closing the restaurant an hour earlier during the week. Obviously, people that had been used to the old hours would come in right at closing. This would cause me to stay later than my posted shift. After a few weeks, my boss noticed that I was paying myself after closing and asked why. I explained that I was having to stay past the closing time when I still had customers. He was not happy with my reason, and told me in no uncertain terms was I to pay myself after closing time. No problem, but I don't work for free. So from then on, when people would come in towards the end of my shift, I would ask what they planned on ordering. If there was time for it to be prepared and eaten, I would serve them. If not, I politely explained that we were closing soon and could not accommodate them. My boss caught wind of this. He was not happy. He came into the restaurant during a really busy lunch shift and told me he needed to talk to me in the bar next door right now. He followed behind me through the kitchen screaming at me in Greek the whole way. I do not speak Greek. When he got me out of earshot of the restaurant, he switched to English and went up one side of me and down the other. Told me I had better think about whether I wanted this job or not. Then told me to get back to work and left the premises. I went back to a chaotic mess. And I was pissed. It really didn't take me long to think about it. Maybe a minute. I realized that I really did not want this job. So I paid myself what I was owed, and left a note informing him of my decision. I gathered my belongings. I told the cook I was quitting and walked out the door with a spring in my step. I was full of adrenaline and had no idea what to do next. There was a bus approaching, so I decided to get on. Guess who was on the bus? Sonny and Cher. They were confused to see me as they knew I should still be on shift. I told them that I no longer worked there. They wanted to know why I had quit. Well, they asked. So I launched into a very detailed explanation of why I hated it. They featured heavily in the story. They were so embarrassed that I think they got off before their stop. It was one of the most satisfying experiences I have ever had. I heard later that the cook thought I was kidding, had run across to the store for something, and would be right back. Eventually the customers went into kitchen looking for me and he figured it out. Taking a break when the boss says so. Not sure if this counts, but here goes. A few years ago I was working in a small bar in a mall. I hadn't been there that long, but I knew the place well enough after a couple of weeks. Me and a girl who had also recently started working there had made a pretty good team. We worked 8-hour shifts together almost every day, and had a nice flow going on. The manager had been looking for an assistant manager for a while, and had decided to give the job to one of the waitresses who had been there a while. This is when everything started going wrong. The waitress turned assistant manager decided that she was going to be telling everyone what to do, and when to do it, and how to do it. Now the girl that I worked every day with and I had a good understanding of the day-to-day traffic coming into the bar. We knew when it was going to be quiet and when it wasn't. So we made sure to take our breaks during the quiet times. It never sat dead on the middle of our shift. We'd just take them knowing that we couldn't take them later, or we would be leaving one of us swamped. So she'd go for a half hour, then I would one day, and then I would, and then she would the next day. The new assistant manager decided that wasn't right, and that we shouldn't be doing that, and that we should be taking our breaks in the middle of the shift. We both tried explaining to her that both us taking a break at the same time was dumb, and that it was better to do it now when it was quiet. But she knew better. She would take over bar duties while we were away. I guess she was seeing that it was dead and didn't think about it. Anyway, she really wants the bar cleaned, something we did every day anyway, but she wanted it done now. So we did. We didn't prep for the rush, we didn't do anything but clean the bar. About 2 hours later, the mad rush starts. There's 3 of us behind the bar taking table orders for the waitresses and serving punters that want to sit at the bar. It hit bang on the middle of our shift, and Mai and the girl downed tools and left the bar. The new assistant manager was like, "What are you doing? You can't leave now?" Mai and the girl told her, "This is what you wanted. We tried to tell you, but you didn't want to listen. So it's break time just like you said." We smiled, linked arms and went off to enjoy some food together. We came back about a half hour later. The place was a shambles. Turns out the new manager had very limited experience working a bar. She didn't know how the coffee machine worked, she didn't know how to pull Guinness. So the place was dead again, most people just going elsewhere. She was super pissed. Calling us all the cunts under sun, and that she was going to get us fired. Just an extreme rant complete with finger pointing. And that just made us leave again. We both quit on the spot and left her to explain to the manager what had happened. We came back in later on in the week for our final pay and to return the t-shirt uniforms. Had a sit down with the manager, gave our side of it. Manager wasn't impressed with any of us. Which is fair enough. But I stand by what we did. We did everything to try and explain to the new assistant manager on the day, but she just wasn't for hearing it. She wanted things done her way and to lord her new power over everyone. I don't think anyone responds well to "I'm the boss, you do as I say." The girl and I became friends outside of work for a while, but we got other jobs and just kinda drifted apart as you do. Thanks for watching.